Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Small Biz Essential webinar. Today we're talking about 5 ways to get over your Midwestern humility and talk yourself up. My name is Sierra Ladroma. I am the project manager for the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. The Iowa Center's Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You will all receive an email after this event from my colleague, Ben Schultz, thanking you for attending today's session, information on how to connect to our speaker, as well as a form to complete. Please do us a big favor and take some time to fill this form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa. Now go ahead, like I said before, please take some time to locate the chat function on your Zoom screens so you can join the conversation today. Today's featured guest is Sally Cooper-Smith. Sally is the president and creative director of Cooper-Smith & Company, a marketing and design firm she founded in 1993. Sally specializes in marketing and business strategy for small businesses. She works with founders and entrepreneurs to grow their businesses through more effective branding, advertising, and communications online and off. Sally, it's always such a pleasure to share a space with you. Thank you so much for joining us today to share your expertise. The screen is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Sierra. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So good to see you here today. I do hope that you'll reach out to me in LinkedIn or in other formats after this meeting if you'd like to connect further. And as Sierra said, she's got all my contact information for you too. If you do have any questions, I will try to keep my eye on the chat. So do go ahead and put any questions that you have in there and I will dive in. So yes, today we're going to talk about that really dreaded thing of networking. It's not quite as bad as public speaking, but oh my gosh, it's just that close. That part where you just freeze when somebody puts out their hand and says, hey, so what's new? It's been forever. And the best thing you can factor out of your mouth is, things are good. What a missed opportunity. It's time to get over that shyness that we all feel, because we've all known someone who talks about themselves way too much, or is just overbearing, or is maybe always exaggerating the small thing that they did and making it a sound so much bigger. And none of us want to be that person, and so we shy away. But consequently, then, we're not interacting with people. We're not really being our authentic selves. And when you're not your authentic self, you're kind of boring. And it's really hard to be remembered. Why? Because if you take credit for what you do, it reflects on your accomplishments. You get recognition for the achievements that you've gained. You get to advance based on the successes that you've had, and you get to connect, which is the power for the future. It's critical we all learn this skill and get comfortable with it. It doesn't have to be icky, and it doesn't have to be inauthentic. You can still be you, and you can still be humble, and you can still be Midwestern, and still take credit and get recognition to be able to advance and connect. But it does take some work, especially while we're all still in this Zoom environment. They can't see you other than this little screen we all have. They need to hear from you, and they need to hear from your heart. So it's time we learn how to blow our own horn without blowing it in business. Our goal today is going to be how to show up as your gracious and authentic self to get the credit and the notoriety you deserve. So we're going to start where we always have to start, and that is in doing some preparation. And that's got to happen long before you walk into the door of a networking event. Start spending some time now. Give yourself several days before your next networking event to work through what we're going to look at today. Let's start with asking yourself, what impression is it you want to make? What's the one thing you hope people remember about you when you introduce yourself at this event? Are you looking for a new job? Are you trying to make a new connection? Are you trying to find a new apartment, a place to live? Are you looking for clients? Are you looking for people to partner with in your business? Know what it is you're looking for and what impression you're trying to make. And then do a little creative brainstorming. If you could, whose ear do you want to have? If you could bump into anybody, the perfect person at this event, who would that be? And if indeed we are all just separated by 6 degrees of separation, as Kevin Bacon said, how might you stair step to that person? If you really wanted to get in front of Bill Gates, who might work close enough to Gates, who might be a relative of that person, who might know somebody who went to college with that person, who might know somebody with. It's not inconceivable that you could indeed reach that far. But you need to know where you're trying to go. And not just now, not just tonight, but several weeks and months from now. And then you need to really assess yourself and think, okay, what am I working with? What can I bring to this party, quite literally, to be a part of this? And I just realized that when I'm sharing full screen, I can't see chat. So Sierra, chime in if somebody's got a question.
Yeah, we have some great comments. I had asked, what do we think of or feel when we hear the word networking? So we have some people sharing what that is, and that's forced connections, people with their own agendas. One of those horrible events where you're supposed to find someone that has talents you can use, and then the obligatory connecting.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. It's all those things. But it's also the place, it's really the only place you can go to make the connections that bring you forward. But you'd have to know what those connections are that you need. If a networking event is a diamond mine, what diamond are you looking for? So to figure out what it is we're working with, I recommend you work through the next 10 questions that we're going to talk about. This is a little sort of a self-assessment, brainstorming exercise that you're going to work through to be able to gather enough interesting tidbits about yourself to have something to talk about when somebody says, so tell me what's new. What are the 10 most interesting things that you have ever done or that have ever happened to you? They can be incredibly mundane in a general sense of the word. I will throw out little things for me, just so that you've got an idea. 10 most interesting things. My parents were members of the Lepidopterous Society when I was a little girl, and I had a chest drawer full of mounted butterflies. And by the time I was 5, I knew the Latin names of most of the common butterflies. Curious fun fact. I also once dug a hole beside our house and hit clay tile, I was certain I had hit the tunnel to China. What would you or others say are 5 of your personality pluses? Now, these can be a variety of things. These can be the things that you offer up in an interview, that you're like, I am a really hard worker. I'm a self-starter. But you should dig a little bit deeper and maybe have some examples behind them. What is it about you that makes you a self-starter? Can you give us an example of something you did? Why is it that you're compelled to be a self-starter? What is it you value? Do you value grit and integrity? Do you value follow-through and hard work? Or do you just plain like to see things get done? What do you do for a living? And how did you end up doing it? What's the story that got you to where you are now? Sometimes the thing you're doing for a living isn't really the thing you want to do, but it is where you are right now. And the path that brought you there is probably kind of interesting. And it may be a good leaping off point for the next step. What do you like or love about your current job or career? Even if it's something you want to change, there's something that drew you to it originally. If what you really want to be is to be able to play music for a living, but right now you're waiting tables, there's probably something about waiting tables that's keeping you there. Maybe you love the performance aspect of waiting on people. It's a bit of a show. And besides that, instead of paying you in applause, they pay you in tips. That's a good story. How does your job or career use your skills and talents? And what are you doing right now that showcases those? So again, if we could use the waiting tables versus making music analogy. So if your skills are really around being a musician, you might be able to say that your current job really helps you manage people and personalities. There's always a disgruntled customer, just like there's always somebody in the audience that's throwing tomatoes. Or you could say that your current job really manages time, which will be fabulous when you start having to juggle all those gigs you're going to get. There's nothing like working 3 part-time jobs to teach you how to manage time. What career success are you most proud of having accomplished? And that could be your current career or another one. What training or education have you completed or even worked on? And what did you gain from that? It may not even be the education that led you to where you are now. There are a number of people that I know that studied something in college completely different from what they're doing. But there was something about that education that got them to where they are now. They went to college to study a particular field, but met the spouse of their dreams, ended up traveling to a different part of the world, ended up in all kinds of experiences and networking, and led them to a whole different position. But there was probably something they learned from that education, something that brought them to where they are now. These will all be pieces that you can weave into a story when somebody says, oh, where'd you go to college? Oh, well, I went here. and I studied this. It's not what I do, but it was very interesting to get to learn how to fill in the blank. And I use that in my current profession. What new skills have you learned? We've all learned some amazing skills in the past year. Skills we didn't know we would ever need to learn. In the past year, I've learned how to put on a mask and loop it over my ears with one hand while I'm carrying 6 loads of groceries. Never knew I needed that skill. It's probably a skill I will lose very quickly. What else have you learned? What obstacles have you had to overcome to get where you are today? What lessons have you learned from some of those mistakes? In other words, what will you never do again? Or what was the thing that happened or that you did that made you realize that's not what you wanted to do anymore? Those are the experiences that help us pivot, that really focus us into a new direction. So if you're feeling right now like, I hate networking because I never feel good about my story, your story is your jumping off point. Even if it's something that you say, something negative happened. The company I worked for had to close because of the pandemic and never reopened. But it has completely opened me up to some new opportunities for careers I hadn't even, and now I've been driving for DoorDash, and I actually discovered I'm really good at navigating the streets or some other skill that you've learned. What professional organizations are you associated with, and in what ways? These can be volunteer organizations, service organizations. It can be leadership positions that you take within those organizations. It can be service work that you do within them. But it can also just be ways to show what you're passionate about. You may have a career, for instance, that doesn't express your creativity, but you're part of this incredibly creative group of people that are doing crafting, or this amazing quilt organization, or knitters, or scrapbooking. You can define professional however you'd like, which leads you into, how do you spend your time outside of work? What are those hobbies, activities, or interests? Because sometimes that's what really touches your passion. That's what really makes you interesting. You're an accountant by day, but a soccer coach at night. And watching those kids excel brings you so much joy. How are you making a difference in people's lives? That's an easy one for a lot of people. For a lot of Midwesterners, making a difference is what we most enjoy doing. And our lives just don't really feel complete unless we can put our finger on how we are doing that. It's important for you to know. Take credit for it. Feel good about that. Now, take all of those answers and start to weave them into stories. Connect the why and the how in your stories into responses to questions you think you may hear to help people know who you really are. So when somebody at a networking event says, hey, what's new? you can say, well, over the past year, I've learned some rad new skills. Or, wow, over the past year, I've gotten so involved with my volunteer group, or I've picked up this brand new hobby. It's so much more engaging and enriching to hear about somebody on that level than it is to have them go, well, you know, it's nice weather. There's so much more to you. Spend some time thinking about what the most common questions are that you get asked. What's the jumping off point for small talk when you're in a networking event? Some of them I know that you'll hear are things like, so what do you do? And they usually mean for a living. Or do you live here in town? How long have you been in Des Moines? Especially if you've revealed that you were recently moved to town. Oh, what brought you to Des Moines? There'll be a story there. People love to ask about family. Do you have kids? Do you have family here in town? Those are all jumping off points for you. And then when you do have opportunities to reach out for those points that you identified in the beginning, what do you really want out of this networking event? How can you weave that in? How can you say, I'm so interested in furthering my ability to play music. I've done this gig, or I've done that gig, or I just finished this level of training. I'm really enjoying the music lessons that I'm teaching. I'm looking for some opportunities to play for folks. Know how you can ask those questions so that you can get in front of the people that can make a difference. Know how you can say, I've got this amazing idea, and my greatest dream in life is to get it in front of Bill Gates. Somehow weave that in if that's where you're going. Add in detail to your stories whenever you can. Detail makes you memorable and relatable. So when you tell the story of, I'm an accountant by day, but I coach kids soccer at night, tell me the story of the last game you did, or the favorite experience you had with one of the kids, or how you managed to maintain the team spirit during a pandemic. Use anecdotes, stories, statistics, quotations. You can always kick off, well, as Benjamin Franklin always said, you can use those pieces. And this one's really important. Engage the senses. If I can use our coaching example one more time, and you can talk about, there's nothing like the smell of the earth and the dirt and the kids, and as they're describing this, you're there with them. Our senses are in the center of our brain. They're all close into the area of our almost primitive brain. And that is where memories are stored the longest. The more sense memory you can tie to a story, the stickier it becomes. And the more memorable you will be as a person. Don't try to remember all this, because it's going to be a lot. I truly standardize this. Write it down. Rewrite your resume, your cover letter, a bio now, while it's fresh in your mind as you're going through these questions. Sketch out a couple of what they call elevator pitches. It's 2 or 3 sentences that you can roll off your tongue in don't take much more than 20 or 30 seconds to say who you are, what you do, and what it is you're looking for right now. Work on a real short introduction. So for instance, for me, if I say, hi, my name is Sally Cooper Smith and I own an advertising and marketing firm. It's kind of dull. And you'll probably forget me. But if I say, hi, my name is Sally Cooper Smith and I own a 27-year-old marketing and design firm that works for small businesses, and I mean so small, and watch them grow. We help them grow. It is our greatest goal in life to grow a business so large that they're too big for us. It takes a while for that to happen, but one of our clients, we grew to 50 employees to over 5,000. And we've just launched them on their own. It's like watching baby birds leave the nest. Now suddenly I've got a story. And then expand both of those, that elevator pitch and that short introduction, into like a 3-minute introduction. If you're ever in a service organization, my Rotary Club, for instance, if you serve on a board, there's going to be a chance of, hi, we would like for you to meet this person. Hear this person. Give us a little 3-minute introduction. What are you going to say? Write it down and put it into a folder that you can remember and access and look at again before you head off to the next networking event. And don't just leave it in the folder. Keep it up to date. Revisit this every year. It's something that I do around New Year's every year. I pull that file out. It's a great way to kind of review, what were my accomplishments in the past year? How have things changed? What am I looking for now when I start going to a networking event? Kind of categorize some of these talking points for, this would be really good when I talk to a new client or prospect. Or, the next time I've got to do a talk, this would be a great opener. Or if I ever have to talk to the press, this is what I want to make sure they know. Or here's just a fun fact about me. That time at the party, cocktail party, going around the room, and you just got to throw out a fun fact. What might that be? So a couple of example stories. Here's one. Fun fact about me. Hi, I'm Sally Cooper Smith. I'm a 3rd generation only child. My daughter is a 4th generation only child. Means we've got a family tree that looks like those little pruned, very few branches. What's yours? Give yourself a 1-minute introduction. Give yourself a story you can tell in a performance review. So especially in that situation, you want to make sure that you are able to encapsulate your accomplishments in the past year. You can talk about, I'm so proud about the work that my team did. You don't have to brag all about you. You can brag about the people you work with. I'm proud about the work my team did. We were able to overcome incredible obstacles. We worked together even though remotely and had increased productivity. But you have to find a way to take credit for what you did right. And if you are out of work right now, find a way to answer, what are you doing these days? In a way that brings you to your next level. Yeah, if you're spending your days gardening, what's that mean? I'm getting ready for the spring. I actually discovered I've got this incredible passion for gardening. I've actually been selling the hostas I divide. Don't assume that people already know everything about you. There's a lot more to you than anybody knows, even your closest people. And even if they do already know it, you're going to be able to tell a story about it that's fresh every time. And timing is everything. There are times where it's not appropriate to talk yourself up. There are times that it's better to just be quiet. And you'll know when those are. But I'm much more worried about you having the courage to speak up when the spotlight is turned on you. If the spotlight's on someone else, let them have their shine. But when it turns to you, be able to step into the light. And for every story you tell, personalize it. Make sure that there's your own angle. Especially in those work situations, if you're having to report on a project and the work that's been done. Yes, we made incredible advances on the website. We've done the work. I'm very proud of the team. They found a way to write code for something that we didn't think would be possible, whatever that may be. And again, think through those opportunities. Job interviews, performance reviews, Zoom meetings, and networking. And voicemail. This one is really tough because it's hard to brag yourself up when you have no reaction from anyone. But if you're in a sales position and you have to leave voice messages, it's important to know how to make them stick with somebody. Make them memorable and make them want to respond. And again, it comes back to engaging the senses, using detail, being relatable. And then you also have to be able to do this in writing. It's not just what you say. So cover letters, resumes, obvious, but also proposals to new clients or for new projects, emails. And right now in the work from home environment, we're all living by Slack and email. Social media, LinkedIn is a great place to be bragging yourself up. And finally, tell me about you. What are your challenges? What questions do you have for me? And I'll stop sharing and see what your questions are.
Thank you, Sally. The most recent question was from Michelle, and she's asking if the slides are going to be available.
They sure will. I'll make sure Sierra's got them and we'll distribute them.
Perfect. And then Kirsten had asked, but you had also answered the question, should the 10 most interesting things about you somehow relate back to what you do? What do you think about that?
Well, they don't have to. They certainly don't have to. But they can. just about everything that's interesting about you is something that became part of who you are. Whether it's very recent or it's very past, if it's something about you as a child, it's something that makes you who you are. And if it had that big of an impact on you, I'm sure it fits.
Yeah. So a personal question that I know that maybe not might be on our minds, but networking has looked differently for all of us this last year and probably will for quite a while. How do you find the spaces to network with keeping sure that we are safe and that others are safe? What suggestions do you have?
Well, networking these days is Zoom based and not completely awful. There are people that I have met in the last year that I still have not seen in 3D.
Like me.
Like you, exactly. We've never met face to face.
Yeah.
So, you build your rapport. You just build your rapport. I think it's not so much where do you find the opportunities to network, because there are a lot of opportunities out there. The Chamber, Iowa Center, the service organizations, they all continue to meet and have events, and the events have breakout rooms where you're in a smaller group and can have a chance to share. It's more a matter of just putting yourself out there and doing it. Sign up and go. Do it.
Yeah. It's almost, I don't know if this will relate to everyone, but it's almost like going to the gym, right? Like you might not want to do it, but afterwards you never regret it.
Right.
Because you always feel great.
Right.
Okay. A question that came in is, how do you handle being in a situation where you are talking about your company, but don't feel like the other party is interested or giving as much energy as you? At what point do you decide this one isn't worth it? And how do you remove yourself gracefully?
Oh, yeah. I think it's always important to just sort of keep sometimes those contacts brief. If you go into them with the idea of more is more, talk to more people, the more people you connect with, the better your odds are that one of those folks is the one that you're going to really have some rapport with. So when you do talk with somebody and there's not great rapport, I think you can always be honest and simply say, well, it's been so great to talk with you. I think we should both just really network today. It's been great to talk with you. Let's see who else we know here today, and just challenge each other too.
I like that. It's an invite.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can also say things like, loved talking with you. I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to connect with somebody else. I see somebody else I know across the room I really need to connect with. You can do those things too. That's a little harder in Zoom.
Yeah, it is. It's a different kind of interaction via Zoom, but
Right.
Still it can be as strong. And I can attest to that.
It can. The one advantage in Zoom is those time commitments are usually concrete. So if you're in a little breakout room during the Zoom, it's down to that. You've got 2 minutes or 30 seconds to make a little introduction about yourself, because you all go around the room. It's like, whoa, we've got 5 minutes in this breakout room. Everybody say their little bit. Well, you got to have that down.
Yeah, I have been there. It's nerve-wracking.
It is.
All right, we have a question from Melinda. I hope that's how you pronounce that. Please correct me if that's wrong. The comment is, I am not fast nor up on computer skills yet. With COVID, I have no choice to communicate via online, and there seems to be mishaps or something interrupts. How would I explain without sounding as if I am making excuses or irresponsible?
Oh, I think we're all pretty forgiving of when things go awry. Which happened just about every time. Happened before Sierra and I this morning. Yeah.
It happened about 42 minutes ago.
It did, and it does, and
Yes.
and stop worrying about it. Make that part of your story. Make that part of you. It's like, hey, so I don't, I'm learning computer skills. This is where I am right now. Oh my goodness, had no idea what I would have to learn during a pandemic. And, the following things are happening.
And I think it goes back to the authenticity that you mentioned, because if you just really share like, hey, I'm going through this right now and I'm learning, but I'm here, chances are that other person will be like, oh my gosh, I feel the exact same way.
Right. Exactly. Makes you relatable.
Okay. Another one is you're in a crowded event by yourself. Little groups of people everywhere, but you're not with any of them. How do you just walk up and start talking to people? Or do you not do that because that's weird?
I've heard two schools of thought on that one. One is you actually can walk up and kind of introduce yourself to them. It's good if you can do it with a dose of humor. And this one may take some practice. You can walk up to a group that feels approachable and even say like, hi, I was across the room and you guys look like the most interesting people here. Can I come hang with you? You can just kind of be like, you look really interesting. Love to introduce myself. The other school of thought says, no, don't even try to do that. Find another person on the fringe who's not in a small group and go up to them. That likes attract like. If you go to somebody and you make your own little pod, you'll start to attract folks to you.
Yes.
And that does work. I have tried that. And then I will say, if you are in a small group talking, out of kindness to the other people not in small groups who would like to connect to people, try to arrange your people. I'm always doing this when I'm in a group. Create a gap in your circle. Open it up somehow so that there's sort of a loose end among you. It encourages people to come join you. That's the best way for you to be able to network. It also helps in those times when you've got somebody that you're talking with you don't really want to be talking with, because now you've got somebody new who's entered the group. It's just a really easy transition to be like, oh, hello, and tell me your story.
Yeah. I'll share two things. One of the things that I use when I network is I always find someone where something catches my eye. So for example, owner of Midwest Thrifter, Vanessa Van Buskirk. You met her in the last Dream Little program. I know, Vanessa, if you're listening to this, if I saw you at a networking event, I would go up to you immediately and be like, where did you get this outfit? I need to know right now, what do you do? Let's be friends. So I always point out, like in my head, like who I want to meet here.
Right.
Like, who is interesting? So that's one thing. And one of the most interesting ways that someone has introduced themselves to me in a networking event is straight up, for example, hi, I'm Sally. And I'm like, oh, hi, like forward, simple. And then we started talking. So
right.
That was
nice. One of the best things you can do is ask somebody else about them.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to talk about themselves. But remember, the point of this talk is how to talk about you so that you get remembered and take credit for what you do well. So, I think we're all pretty good at engaging people, but I just don't want you to get so caught in that you stop.
Yeah.
Your own 2 cents into.
So Sally, you mentioned your LinkedIn. I'm going to drop it in the chat. Everyone go ahead, click, connect, reach out to Sally, connect with her on her other profiles as well. Just say hello. Remember, you can literally reach out to Sally to grow your network right now. And then I do want to do a quick plug for the Iowa Center. We are so excited for this month and next month. So thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, everyone. I want to share that the Iowa Center has incredible programs, like I said, this month and next month that are designed for new and growing small business owners and entrepreneurs. You literally might even see Sally in one of them or numerous ones. Visit our website today to check those out. And if you find yourself thinking, I'm interested in this, reach out to me. I would love to answer questions and connect with you. Sally, do you have any last words of wisdom about networking and connections?
Just do it. Just do it. It gets better with practice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Any last questions from attendees? If not, make sure to click that link, say hello to Sally. Thank you, Vanessa. Wait, let me see here. Q&A came up. One more.
Okay,
from an anonymous attendee, I am outgoing and don't have a problem starting a conversation yet since I use text or email to communicate and less voice. I found myself to stutter a lot and or forget things. What advice might you have?
So it's that you're more comfortable in writing than you are in voice. Is what I'm hearing.
I think so, yes.
Don't worry about it. I think the anxiety makes it worse. Mm-hmm. I've got a really dear friend who is a stutterer, and if she worries about it, it's going to get worse. People are actually really forgiving. And if your conversation, your stories are compelling and interesting, we'll hang in there till we hear it all. Mm-hmm. So it's all the more reason to work on having a story that's worth working for. Just if you're good at writing, you're good at texting, all the more reason to write it down. Mm-hmm. Kind of get it down and practice saying it a few times. And then just go for it.
Love that. Okay. Thank you. I love it. So overall, just do it.
Just do it.
Just give it a try. You're not going to regret it. And feel free to reach out to different resources. Sally, again, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful week, and we will talk soon.
Very good. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.